Nice.
And now I want to get into some of the actual haunted objects that I was talking about just a few minutes ago. So what have you got for us, Kristen, on some of these haunted objects?
Well, it's said that the Myrtles Plantation is one of the most haunted places in the world, but the most haunted item within this plantation itself is a mirror that was added to the home in 1980.
Wow.
Well, the legend states that the mirror contains the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her children who were poisoned by a slave named Chloe.
Huh.
Now, Chloe was said to have baked an oleander lace cake that poisoned 3 members of the family. And she was a young slave girl that had been favored by the plantation's master and had ended up being given some of the easier tasks. Well, she became afraid that her master would become bored with her and place her back in the fields. So she devised a plan to make his wife and 2 daughters ill and then heal him back to health, making him believe she was worthy to stay inside.
Oh, so she would be the hero.
Right.
I get it.
Well, unfortunately, her plan did not work out.
Uh-oh.
She had placed too much of the oleander within the cake and ultimately poisoned Sarah and her 2 daughters to death.
Oh, tragic.
Chloe herself ended up being murdered by other slaves on the plantation for this act.
Oh, boy.
Now, folklore states that when a person dies, that all mirrors within the house must be covered so that their spirits do not get lost or trapped within them.
Right. They said that many
times.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And her husband is said to actually have missed one of the mirrors within the home, which is now said to harbor the spirits of Sarah and her daughters.
Oh, boy.
Now, guests have actually reported seeing figures lurking in the mirror, and child-sized handprints have been witnessed on the glass itself.
And that's funny that they mention that the small handprints, because this mirror that we have built here in this sheriff office, in this front room, we've had tiny handprints show up along the bottom of this mirror before. Yes. And
it's a little creepy.
It is. And we left it, and a couple of the next times that we come up, there'd be more.
Wow.
So I finally washed them all off. And we don't have any more yet.
Right? Now that we're talking about it, we may come back next time.
Yeah, but that whole bottom of that mirror that's in this room here was covered with this tiny little handprints.
I'll have to watch for that.
Oh, next we're going to talk about the screaming skull of Burton Agnes Hall. Now, skulls, I'm so interested in skulls.
That's your favorite.
Right. Within the village of Burton Agnes, England, the Burton Agnes Hall is the residence to a haunted object known as the Screaming Skull. It is said that this skull belonged to Catherine Ann Griffith, who died within the home in 1620 after being brutally attacked by bullies near St. John's Well. Okay, well, before she passed, she made her sister promise to keep a part of her within their beautiful home. And so the sisters, they did what she wanted. It was then that someone attempted, not once, but multiple times, to remove her skull from the home. But it is said that whenever someone did try or attempt to remove the skull from the home, a terrifying ghost would walk in making a tremendous noise or screaming. And it would make a huge ruckus, scaring the life out of everyone who was present. So obviously that must have been her.
I was not happy.
That's right. And needless to say, the skull still remains within the home today. And it is said to be buried within one of the walls, possibly the wall of the Great Hall. So she may continue to look over everything within her beautiful home.
It's kind of creepy to think that maybe you own a home with a skull in
the wall. And if you try to remove it,
that would be horrible.
Yes.
Well, next is the Belcourt Castle chairs.
Oh.
Chairs. So a former cottage located in Newport, Rhode Island, the Belcourt Castle has a ballroom that is well known for its paranormal activity. The center of this activity stems around the chairs themselves.
Oh, awesome.
Now, guests have stated they have felt chills race up and down their spine while standing near those chairs, and others have reported strange sensations, energy-like, running across their hands while yet others have even been pushed out of the chairs by unseen forces.
Huh. So that'd be like, we've had our chairs
Oh, they've been moved
while we were sitting in them and bumped and everything. Yeah.
Yes, they have.
So we can sympathize with this. Now, the next thing that's up here, we have this haunted poster board.
A poster board.
I know it. In this small village of Freetown, Massachusetts, a man named Belzano, he was researching deep woods occult activity. So he's just asking for trouble.
Oh, yeah.
He contacted the local police department, and an investigator agreed to loan him police files and a poster board from the 1970s. Now, on this poster board was a teenager had inscribed the Lord's Prayer, but he'd written it backwards in his own blood as part of some bloody desecration of the town's nativity scene, okay?
That's pretty gruesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's even kind of morbid almost, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Belzano soon realized that he could not keep the poster board hidden. No matter how many times he put and even locked it away, it would appear in random places throughout his home. Now, several times it even appeared with a knife through it.
Wow.
It'd be like, I mean,
it'd be hard to be scared of a poster board.
Yeah, I mean, but a knife stabbing through it when he saw it. Now, when he attempted to stash it under his bed, his wife would end up having terrible nightmares. Now, when he and his family decided to move, the poster board showed up one day sitting on top of some of the moving boxes. Finally, he decided it was time to mail it back to the investigator, where an even stranger event took place. The investigator called Balzano and said that the poster board never showed up. Bewildering as it may seem, the poster board has never turned up back at the police station, and it leaves them both wondering what the heck ever happened to it.
So everybody be on the lookout
for a haunted poster board.
Haunted poster board.
If you get it in the mail, look out.
Well, a poster board sounds a little strange.
Yes.
But there's also a haunted filing cabinet.
Okay.
Okay, so this woman named Alice was out garage selling when she came across an old, ugly filing cabinet for $5.
Okay, that's a bargain.
That's a bargain. And she didn't need one, but she decided to purchase it anyways.
Okay.
So she loaded it up and started to drive home when her car stalled and wouldn't start. She called her husband. He came, loaded up on his truck, and they were getting ready to leave, and then his truck wouldn't start.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, eventually they both got home, unloaded the cabinet to the house. And it was soon after that Alice began having weird, repetitive dreams about a 60s vintage Donna Reed look-alike who was trying to start up conversations with her in her very kitchen. Well, then she started seeing the woman in the house when she was awake. This woman soon led Alice to the filing cabinet where she found a New York birth certificate for a woman simply named Elle, who was born in 1941.
Oh, interesting.
So Alice, she took the birth certificate, went back to the house where she bought the cabinet, but the frightened owner said the cabinet had come with the home and they knew nothing about it.
Uh-huh.
So evidently it was scaring them as well.
Right.
They just wanted to get rid of it.
And they don't want nothing more to do with it.
Well, let's see. Alice spent the following few weeks attempting to identify the woman by using online tactics, but to no avail. Sleepless and frustrated, she finally screamed, "Elle, if you want to tell me something, help me." Well, that very night, the fire alarm went off, and she awoke to the birth certificate burning in the kitchen sink.
Oh, amazing.
And it was after that she never seen Elle again, and all the odd occurrences stopped.
Holy smokes. Then we got this haunted book. And in California, California. What am I even thinking? Florida. There's this haunted inn called the Scott House. And it is here that a TV ghost hunting crew visited. And in the room that had once belonged to Elizabeth Scott, the crew found a an 1893 copy of a Sir Walter Scott classic poem, The Lady of the Lake. Now, this book was the only original item left on this, in the Scott estate. And with that, folks, we will continue after this short break. You are listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal